what is customer journey mapping? Like, how do we do it? And so the best way to explain it is we like looking at it from, starting with the customer experience and working our way backwards. So looking at any of our given products or services or solutions or subsets of each and saying, from our customer's perspective, what does their experience look like in the activation or the onboarding or the sales process or the servicing process or, their overall journey within any of those given products or services that you're selling them. And so what we look at, again, is taking it from the customer's perspective first and an outside in look at each of those individual steps and those individual touch points that customer will engage with along the life cycle of working with or interacting with your product or service. Who takes part in these sessions? And really the easy answer is as many people as possible. And we like to have representatives from each individual team. So from the, each stakeholder, from the people that are doing the work, those ground floor teams that are actually facilitating the interactions with any of these given customer journeys, but then also those that are responsible for the work getting done, and then any partner or network that we're using to complete our product or our service. And so from that view, we like to have stakeholders from every team, every organization, and any third party that is, part of this customer journey to have input and say into what that ideal state customer journey will look like in the future. And so the next step is we start to find tools and solutions that allow us to actually do this work. And so oftentimes you find third-party organizations like OvationCXM to come in and consult with you along the way and looking at it from, an outside party in saying, well, what is this individual step? What is the most painful process of this stage? Any of these interactions, what are the tools and the systems that we're communicating with to make sure that we're getting the right information to the right people in context of what they're looking for? Because the biggest and number one issue we see with customer journeys is people focus on a product and a service and some of the cool features and technology within, and oftentimes overlook what that customer experience looks like. So then walking through, step by step, what does a journey mapping session look like? Well, there are 5 kind of core elements to any customer journey. Obviously, we try to boil this down into, its most basic parts, but you have any given journey. Again, that could be onboarding, that could be activation or servicing. You have within those journeys, you have stages. And in those stages, you have various interactions, which are messages or communications with various teams or customers. And then you have events and tasks. And so as we start to look at those, the next step is to go into those and start pinpointing each of those touch points along the way. And so as we go, you're looking at, what is the initial first stage? So this is creating customer information. Who are those teams that are accountable? So typically, there's 3, 4, 5, maybe a dozen teams that all provide various points of information along the way in that customer journey. And then as you go through, you want to map out those stages, those touch points. So the individual interactions, both internal and external, that to facilitate that customer experience. And then as you work through, I think the most important part in identifying your current state customer journey is looking at what we call gain points. So what are the positive aspects of this touch point? And then conversely of that, pain points. So what are the negative aspects of each touch point? And then as we map those out, we want to look at the channels. So how are we communicating with our customer in this? Is this through a portal? Is this an email, an SMS, text message, or is it a phone call? And then as we do that, each of these interactions will need to ultimately be written to some system of record or platform. And so identifying the systems and platforms that we need to communicate with ahead of time allow us to make sure that we're getting all the right information, again, to the right people at the right time and context. So as we go through and facilitate these journey mapping sessions, we like to show what a raw output of that journey looks like. And so, we will spend anywhere from, 90 minutes to 2 hours on any specific given journey. And this is just, again, a raw output. It's identifying each of those touch points. What are those positive and negative experiences from the customer's perspective? What systems and channels are we using to communicate? And then you bucket those down and really aggregate a ton of notes from all the different stakeholders saying, hey, in this specific process, this is extremely painful. We should fix that. Or I just noticed that there's a 14-day gap from the time that the customer was last communicated in this pathway and just got hit up again for another piece of information. Can we streamline that? The main goal is looking at our customer journeys and seeing how we can optimize them. And ideally, one of the biggest areas for improvement is onboarding. So how can we facilitate a session to find 2 to 3 areas of improvement that can cut time to go live by 15 to 25%. Like those are the key things that we like to focus on in mapping customer journeys and getting to that raw output where we call the current state customer journey. You then get into the next step, which is the ideal state customer journey. And this is really what that output looks like. It is, again, understanding, it's a more streamlined view of what you saw on the last screen, which is understanding each of those touch points, maybe combining a few, maybe understanding, the systems and making sure that we can pull the right information forward in this process. But then most importantly, at the bottom is solutioning against that. Making sure that you have the tools needed to be successful to get the information to the right people in context, having 360-degree visibility both to the customer or any other partner that may be accountable for any piece of that customer journey. And so that's really what we're looking at, is going from that current state to the ideal state, making sure that you're setting up your customer journeys with an intent for success from day one and into the future. So as we start engaging with these sessions, the number one question we get asked is, where do we start? Like, what journeys do we focus on? And we found 2 ways to be, the most successful in getting to the outcomes that we're looking for. The first one is very simple. You just ask your teams. You can do an internal poll or identify and reach out to those teams that are doing the work and just saying, hey, are there any processes or journeys here that are just extremely painful? Are there points in any of these customer interactions where you just don't feel like you have the information you need to be able to be effective in your job? And typically you can come out of there with a handful of scenarios in which the teams will be focused on areas that can really help them in their day-to-day. And if you're helping them, then you're helping the customer experience. And that has been the number one easiest way to identify which is the best customer journey to start on. The second, you can actually look at it from a revenue perspective. And so, what journeys are affecting our bottom line the most? And that's why, from an OvationCXM perspective, we consult with groups of all varying sizes and organizations. So looking at from commercial banking to fintech to other financial services into healthcare and insurance and technology, we often see that onboarding and activation is one of the lowest hanging fruits. And really, the easiest way to do that is looking at it from a revenue recognition perspective. How long is it taking me from account sign up to go live? And how can I shorten that? Again, by 15 to 20% by making small but effective changes in that customer journey. So just a flashback to kind of how we typically get started. First and foremost, ask your teams. That is the most effective way to find out which journeys are broken and which can be enhanced the quickest. The second, you can do a look from a revenue perspective or from an operational perspective. Where do I think I can drive the most value to my bottom line in enhancing this customer journey?